Hello, my name is Evan Nelson. I am an Indiana State University nursing student, and this will be my presentation on high school students and vaping. I would like you to pause this video and take the pretest, as well as make sure you have the handout, the brochure, trifold brochure that I have available on this page as well, just so you can follow through and kind of fill in the blanks with me. All right, vaping. Vaping is the new trend in tobacco use. And as you'll see, it's also a new trend in other industries as well. Um, Tobacco use has been a public health issue for a long time. It has been very relevant. It's been linked to many health issues since then. Vaping, particularly, is the use of electronic cigarettes in which people inhale the aerosol vapors. The youth is now being noticed as being very heavily influenced. They are the age group that has seen the highest rise in electronic cigarette use. And a lot of that's because of the bright colors, the different things you can put on them, the different flavors, which are, many fruits such as pineapple, mango, and these good tasting flavors rather than the horrible taste of a cigarette. As we know right now, which is changing, there are little regulations on cigarettes, electronic cigarette use, sales, and the content of the electronic cigarette fluid or liquid. It was originally meant to be a smoking cessation tool, and although it does help people not use as much tobacco, there has been evidence that shows people are more frequently using both electronic cigarettes and tobacco. The population at risk, or PAR, that will be discussed is the high school students. There will also be talk of students even younger than high school, but this is the population that has been most noticed through the latest evidence to be the most affected by the new trend of electronic cigarette use. Some learning objectives for this video. At the end of this presentation, you should be able to define vaping, compare vaping, aka electronic cigarette use, and smoking, understand how electronic cigarettes work, identify health risks related to vaping, determine rates of students using electronic cigarettes, as well as note many legal actions that are now being taken because of the recent outbreak of infections. Okay, what is vaping? Vaping is actually the act of inhaling and exhaling aerosols that are heated up by mechanisms in an electronic cigarette that vaporizes the electronic cigarette fluid, also known as e-liquid. Um, Now, vaping is kind of a friendly term for this. However, vaping would infer that it is a water base that is being produced by this aerosol and the heating mechanism. However, it is actually not. It is actually many, many different tiny particles, many of which can be harmful to the body. These include heavy metals, certain chemicals that are very closely related to cancer, and it's because of the non-regulation of these that are causing issues in the population. Okay, now we're going to kind of compare smoking and vaping. Smoking and vaping are both regulated by the FDA. You have to be 18 years or older in order to do either. They are both provided in many retail stores and gas stations. Smoking, obviously, cigarettes, cigars, pipe tobacco, and such are made with tobacco leaves. They are also made with many other toxins such as pesticide, preservatives, and even trace amounts of rat poison in some, which is why they have that big black warning on all packs of tobacco containing products. Vaping e-liquid contains nicotine, propylene glycol, glycerin, different flavoring compounds, and other chemicals. Now, it's not very regulated, so people can basically try whatever they want in these, which can be very dangerous because we don't really know what's being put in our body. They can also have THC, which is the derivative of the compound that gives you a high from marijuana, as well as CBD. The health effects, obviously, with smoking, there's cancer, COPD, emphysema, and cardiovascular disease, to name a few of the top ones. Um, and the health effects of vaping have been linked to things called popcorn lung illnesses, which are being researched to find what origin they are. They've also been seen with the arrhythmias. They have cancerous products in them. And the scary thing is the long-term effects aren't really known because it is a fairly new technology. Okay, now these are the numbers that are concerning. So the FDA found that in November of 2018, 21% of high school students had vaped in the previous month. Okay, now almost a year later, they figured that 27.5% of American teenagers vape regularly. This would amount to 4 million teenagers are vaping. Now, this is the even more concerning fact is that there's an increase to 10% of 8th graders have admitted to using electronic cigarettes. This is leading to the Department of Health and Human Services to think that younger kids are starting these products, these nicotine containing products, at a much younger age, which gives them a higher risk for many different health problems, as well as a gateway to cigarette use later. Okay, now this slide should have a big asterisk because, like I said in the last slide, many of the health risks and the long-term effects hasn't been around long enough for us to really know. However, there is one thing now. We all know that nicotine is an addictive chemical, so it can introduce addiction, brain development. Teens' brains and even adults' brains are still developing very rapidly, even as old as 25 years old. So if you're using these chemicals and they're affecting your brain through cardiovascular nature, that means that you can very well be messing up your brain development. Lung disease, as I stated before, popcorn lung, acute infections that have already been fatal in teens, as well as exacerbation of asthma, arrhythmias, as I stated before, risk of other unhealthy behaviors. Like I said, THC is in these e-liquids now, so marijuana use, alcohol use, and as I stated before, the regular use of cigarettes. There's also organic chemical combustion, which, as you can see from the man in this slide, it does not look very enticing. These are products that are being heated up to a very high temperature to cause a vapor. If they are not regulated and controlled, this can be an outcome of that. And the picture above is actually an x-ray of somebody with popcorn lung. All those white little spots are the popcorn kernels bursting. That's your alveoli, which is what's in your lungs, which is, responsible for you getting oxygen, absorbing it, and getting rid of the carbon dioxide. Alright, and I just wanted to go through some of the action that's being taken. So the FDA mandates that all electronic cigarette manufacturers and liquid producers need to have all equipment and e-liquid approved by the FDA by May of 2020. For this reason, they said that if they do not see through evidence and through the chemicals that are being used to make these things that it is a healthy alternative, they are then able to ban it. There are many stores, including a huge juggernaut in the retail and department industry as Walmart. They banned all electronic cigarettes from their stores. There's also California, New York, Massachusetts, Michigan, Rhode Island, and Washington all moved to restrict the use of electronic cigarettes. And I know that New York specifically has banned all flavored um, electronic cigarettes. Many other large companies, um, a large company, specifically Juul, who has about 50% of the share of this industry, is being threatened by the FDA for the false advertisement, and says that, which is what's leading to the banning of the flavoring electronic cigarettes, which, as you can see, as the last point, is the Trump administration's newest goal. This is because it is such a risk to the youth. They see all these fruit flavors, they see it tastes good, it doesn't smell bad, and it's causing youth to, most specifically high school students, to use this at an alarmingly increasing rate. This is just some of the references that I used. If you look at the handout that I gave at the beginning of this, you will see, and it's got a link on the YouTube page as well. You can see some other additional resources that are available that give more education about the health risks, about the use, and also some quitting resources for people that may already be using electronic cigarette products. I thank you for listening. I hope you all learned. At the beginning of the presentation, I stated I would like you to take the pretest. At this time, I would like you to take the post-test and just see how you did, see how much you improved, and just know that electronic cigarettes, although people view them as being better, they smoked cigarettes for years in hospitals and airplanes and every public place you could think of until they found out how dangerous they were. And I think at this point in time, we are now seeing just how dangerous electronic cigarettes and vaping can be. Thank you for listening.